What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Chill, where I, Graham Jason Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network, as well as on the E! Network, as today we're talking Season 5, Episode 10 of Total Bellas, entitled The Proposal. Now, I originally thought, mistakenly, a couple of weeks ago, that this would be the grand Season 5 finale. Artem proposes, we find out that both Brie and Nikki are pregnant, blah, blah, blah. It was not. It was never advertised as such. I thought it might be, just because I think Season 4 featured 10 episodes as well. Maybe Season 3, I'm not sure. I do have the entire list of episodes here in front of me, but I'm just too lazy to check. We are getting at least one more episode next week. I do know that because they obviously advertised it, where they're going to be revealing, I think, the genders of both Brie and Nikki's babies. Now, Nikki did not say here that she was officially pregnant, but it was revealed in the teaser that that's when we find out that, or rather when she finds out as well, that she is pregnant with Artem's child, after just getting proposed to by Artem on this episode. So everything's moving quite quickly here at the end of the season. Not that these things weren't hinted at over the course of Season 5, and if that is indeed the season finale, if not the mid-season finale, whatever, it should be pretty newsworthy if what they're building to is the grand, pregnancy and the genders and everything else. So that's coming up next week. But on this episode, the title of the show, the title of the episode is pretty much what this episode is all about. It's pretty suggestive in terms of what this episode was about, that being Artem proposing to Nikki in France, as he had been hoping for this entire time. So everyone except for Daniel Bryan was flown into France, and that includes Brie, Nikki, Artem, JJ, Lauren, Kathy, pretty much everyone except for, I don't think John Laurinaitis is there. I don't think he's there. I don't think his daughter is there. Not the daughter that he and Kathy have, but the daughter he had from another marriage, who's been on various episodes this season, in a non-speaking role, that is. Daniel Bryan is not there. He has to go work for WWE. He's on the road right now, but pretty much everyone else is there because JJ and Lauren at this point have no idea what's going on. Kathy and Brie do. It was actually their idea to be on the trip here as well. I think, it was their idea to go along just in case Nikki said no, or just to support them, blah, blah, blah. It turned out to be like this grand 36th birthday celebration for the Bellas, which wasn't what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be an engagement party of sorts for Artem and Nikki, but of course Nikki didn't know that until after she got proposed to on this evening. But pretty much everyone is there, including Artem's parents. Now, Artem gets very emotional, talking about his parents and leaving home at the young age of 15 to go pursue that passion, pursue that dream of becoming a professional dancer. And now, obviously, he didn't hit it big with Dancing with the Stars until years later, so I'm not exactly sure what he did there in the beginning, but he fell in love with dancing. I think his parents, I don't know if they were just hard on him, I'm not exactly sure. They didn't go into too much detail about that. But it seemed like they said, listen, go off, pursue your dream, don't come back until you found success. Because I'm not sure if they were overly supportive of his dream. They seem like very nice people on this episode, but growing up they may have been different, I don't know. But the bottom line is that he has not seen them in over 6 years. It's been a very long time. So he gets very emotional thinking about it, and then picking them up on the side of the house, seeing them for the first time in a long time. And Brie, meanwhile, is very worried about this ring that we found out, I think, on the last episode, or if not the episode before that, from Artem himself, that they were supposed to leave for France the very next day, like in a day from when Brie and Artem met up, in that Artem needed Brie to go pick up the engagement ring before they all flew out to France, which is what she did. She was just worried about getting it through customs, which she was able to, but she was nervous about it either falling out or losing it, or Nikki finding out, whatever. So she thankfully successfully did that. He talked about Artem, that is. He talked about how important it was to him to have his family there to support him, knowing what was to come, proposing to Nikki, and they were aware of it as well. So Nikki gets very nervous speaking of him. She gets very nervous, about meeting them, not just meeting them herself, but also her family meeting their family, because her family can be loud. She realizes they can be obnoxious, which might be the exact opposite of Artem's family. So she's not exactly sure how that's going to mix up. But Artem starts crying when he sees his parents, and they reunite, blah, blah, blah. They all meet up soon after that. Everyone gets along. Artem has to translate for Nikki, and then he has to translate for his mom and his dad. So other than that, other than the language barrier, it kind of turns out like a fairly well first meetup, which is nice. They have a toast, And then the Bellas make a comment about how Artem's dad would be if Christopher Walken and Robert De Niro had a child. It would look like Artem's father. And hey, he's not an ugly guy. I'll say that much. And his mom, I mean, she ain't an ugly woman either. I could see where he gets his good looks from. So good for him in that respect. But in all seriousness, though, they talk about, or from there, rather, they go to visit a cellar there in France. I guess with the help with the Bella's wine business to go wine tasting, whatever. They go to a cellar, and I'm not really sure why the parents are there for that. I guess they're just there for the tour. They have probably no idea what's going on. But anyway, so Artem pulls Kathy aside while they're on this wine tour and says, hey, I got to talk to you later. And she doesn't exactly know what's going on. She's like, yeah, sure. So they go for a walk when they get back to the house or whatever. And he leaves his parents off to the side as he goes to tell Kathy that he wants her blessing in marrying her daughter, Nikki. Now, Kathy starts joking, thinking that it was about him becoming a father or her becoming a grandmother again, which she actually does. On the subsequent episode, we find out that Nikki has been pregnant as well. So that's exactly what it turns into. But no, this is all about Artem asking Kathy for her blessing after Brie had brought up to Kathy on a previous episode about how, Brian asked our dad for his blessing and not you, just because it's traditionally the dad. But the dad's not really in the picture, so we could always ask the dad if he wants to. I'm not sure if he did. They never really made that clear. But he's absolutely going to ask Kathy, which is nice. So Artem says that he feels the time is right. He's very nervous, but he's just, hoping that she won't say no, blah, blah, blah. Kathy, of course, says yes, gives him her blessing. And he can see, or she can see rather, that they love each other very much, that Artem treats her very well, that he cares for her, blah, blah, blah. So, she's fully on board with this whole thing. Brie, meanwhile, before she tells JJ and Lauren and she lets them in on the secret that Artem's proposing to Nikki, she feels nauseous. She kind of feels like she might be pregnant. And Lauren jokingly asks her about that. She goes, hey, you might not be feeling well. If you're not feeling well, you may be pregnant. Are you pregnant? And Brie's like, maybe, I don't know. And she's kind of half joking. She's not 100% sure because she's kind of showing symptoms. She feels like her hormones are running wild, blah, blah, blah. So she feels like she might be pregnant. So hold on to that thought until later on in the episode. So she and Kathy, Brie and Kathy that is, tell JJ and Lauren that Artem's proposing when they go to this big birthday bash. And Artem is all stressed out, wanting this proposal to be perfect. And, I think all things considered, it did. He set it up quite well. And he's very excited to see his brother, who also comes to visit. It's his only sibling. I think he's his older sibling. I mean, it's kind of obvious just from looking at them, but it's his older sibling. He hasn't seen him in a long time. He introduces the brother to everyone at the dinner, blah, blah, blah. And Brie admits that she's never before kept this big of a secret from Nikki. So it's been tough, and she's trying not to let it out or let the secret out, let Nikki know, blah, blah, blah. She's doing her best to keep it a secret, so it's as much of a surprise, as much of a shock to her as it was to Brie to find out from Artem that he would be proposing to Nikki on this night. So they go out to a quote-unquote birthday dinner where Artem gives Nikki, they kind of deviate from the rest of the pack for a little while they sit down for dinner, which of course it's not a birthday dinner, initially anyway. He takes her off on a private tour of the castle, which is where he wants to do this thing. And they start dancing, really romantic stuff. He has a band playing. He sets up the whole thing with candles and roses, blah, blah, blah. That's when he gets down on one knee. He proposes, and she doesn't immediately give an answer. She's like, oh gosh. I don't think she really let it sink in that moment of what was truly going on. I don't think she could actually believe it. Of course, she doesn't say no. She says yes, and they kind of draw it out until after the commercial break for you to wait and find out what was going to happen. Of course, she says yes. Brie talks about how happy she is to see Nikki so happy. Kathy kind of said the same thing. And Artem's mom even had some very nice words saying that she's happy that Artem now has kind of a second family, in addition to his own family with her and her husband and Artem's brother, blah, blah, blah. But also a second family here in the States. I mean, they're in France at the moment, but, over in the States where he currently resides, she's happy that he has another family to go to in the Bella's family with Kathy and JJ and Lauren and so on and so forth. And the dad also makes a joke about how, he kind of makes a crack about how he's excited to see the family expand. Obviously hinting at kids, Nikki and Artem having children, and they haven't even gotten married yet, and they're already getting to the kid talk. Which, of course, they didn't start it was the dad, but I thought that was funny. Especially considering what would happen on the next episode, and Nikki finding out that she was indeed pregnant after all. So, anyway, Nikki thanks at the dinner Brie for allowing Brie to share that special day with Artem, Because it was really supposed to be about the birthday bash. I mean, everyone there knew it wasn't about the birthday thing as much as it was the engagement. But, Nikki still sees it as a birthday dinner. They turned 36. She still sees it as a birthday dinner, and she thanks Brie for allowing her to, share that special day. Because she didn't have to. It could have been all about them, too, but it ended up being about Nikki and Artem in the end. So from there, Brie goes back home where she finds out that Daniel Bryan, cut his hair and shaved his beard, which he's not entirely fond of, by the way. Birdie Joe seems pretty surprised by this development, but Brie, I guess, really likes the rugged look, the long hair and the beard. Personally, I like the current, clean-shaven look from Bryan. I know he's kind of grown his hair out a little longer since this was filmed back in November, December, but I still think it looks good, in my opinion. Anyway, so Brie then talks about the engagement when she sees Bryan and how he proposed, and Nikki said yes, blah, blah, blah. But she also tells Bryan about how she's been feeling nauseous lately. She hasn't really felt like herself, and on the plane she was smelling things that weren't really there, blah, blah, blah. So Bryan raises the obvious question, are you pregnant? Do you feel pregnant? And she doesn't really know. So they kind of let it linger, and she takes the tests, she takes the test later on. And she's, before she finds out the results, thinks to herself about how much of a better place that she and Bryan are in their relationship than where they were a couple of months ago even. After that Sedona trip, which was either on the last episode or the episode before that, they feel, in a lot better of a spot. They feel a lot happier, a lot more calm, letting go of all the depression and anxiety that had been plaguing their relationship for several years now until that Sedona trip. So it really did them a world of wonders, according to Brie and Bryan both. So she takes the test just to know for a fact, like, am I pregnant, am I not pregnant? As it turns out, she is, of course. Spoiler alert, we found this out 6 months ago. But she is indeed pregnant, and Bryan and her rejoice, blah, blah, blah. Bryan meets up with Nikki to close out the episode where, Nikki's like, I feel like I've just been visualizing all day that I should be taking a pregnancy test, blah, blah, blah. And Brie says, well, that's because, twins, when one's going through something, the other one's probably going through the same thing. And of course, it's probably because Nikki's pregnant too, but they don't really put two and two together in that moment. They kind of chalk it up to Brie being pregnant, and that's when she reveals to Nikki that she's pregnant and that she's having another kid, which is really cool. So a nice little note to end the episode on. We have episode 11 coming up next week on the E! Network, where they break down, or rather reveal, first and foremost, that Nikki's pregnant too. And not only that, but I think they have the gender reveal party, which must be a couple months. I mean, how long into the pregnancy? I have no idea. Do you find out if it's a boy or a girl? I don't think it's like right after you get pregnant, so they must have fast forwarded a couple of months. I feel like the season was meant to be 10 episodes, and then they ended up, adding on another episode or two just to get the gender reveal stuff in. So, again, I'm not sure if that is the season 5 finale. It very well may be. They didn't say that. They didn't state that while advertising the episode for next week, but based off what's advertised, that would be my guess, but I guess time will tell. But thank you guys, as always, for checking out my reviews right here on the channel. I appreciate it. Be sure to check out Season 5, Episode 10, the proposal edition of Total Bellas right now on the E! Network. Check out my Episode 11 review next week here on WWE Network and Chill. Check out all my other Total Bellas reviews right down below in the description box, dating all the way back to Season 2. Be sure to like this video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Coming up tomorrow right here on the channel, I believe, should be my audio review of Friday Night SmackDown for tonight, June 5th, which is airing as we speak right now, if not, a little bit after, whatever. I know I'm putting up this video late. I just had a really busy day today. I have stuff to do. The episode should be up a lot earlier next week, but tomorrow here on the channel should be my review of the June 5th, 2020 edition of SmackDown, so stay tuned for that. Until then, guys, have a great rest of your weekend. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.